Obsession is the latest horror movie to become the world's, for the lack of a better word, obsession. Obsession is a supernatural horror film written and directed by Curry Barker. The movie follows Bear, who buys a supernatural toy that grants him his wish for his childhood friend Nikki to fall in love with him, resulting in horrifying consequences. Now, this movie for the past 8 or so months has been hyped up more than any other movie that I've seen in a very long time. But does it deserve all that hype it's gotten, or does it kind of just fall flat on its face, another victim to the hype mob? This will be a spoiler-free review, but before we get into it, have you seen Obsession yet? And if you have, what'd you think of it? If you haven't, are you going to see it, or are you not interested in it at all? Let me know down in the comments below, and without wasting any more time, let's just jump straight into it. Starting off with the good, I have to first talk about Indy Navarreti's performance as Nikki. Indy Navarrete is giving her all to this role, and because of that, we're given a generational performance. She does such a wonderful job at playing both this terrifying and this very sympathetic character. She's established the true Nikki's personalities very well from the few actual scenes that we see of her in the beginning of the movie, and then goes on to be this wishified Nikki, and it's such a 180 of a degree personalities change of who she really is that by the end of the movie you kind of forget how the real Nikki acts, and it's really well done. You really feel that complete change because of something out of her control. So many moments in this movie are elevated because of the outlandish eye and mouth movements. You can tell so much about the character and the emotions that's going on in her head just because of those alone. Nikki as a character, while she is the technical antagonist in this movie, she's also the real victim. There are so many points during this movie where it seems that the real Nikki kind of breaks through the wish's powers, and you can see her freaking out and freaking everyone out because of these random sudden outbursts. But then she does a really good 180 snap back to this wishified Nikki, and this freaks everyone out more, surprisingly enough. This wishified Nikki does a really great job at being this overly obsessive and emotionally manipulative person that makes you feel very disturbed and mistreated all at the same time. But while she's going over the deep end because of the wish itself, you never stop feeling bad for Nikki. She is the real victim here at the end of the day, and she's only doing what she's doing because the wish is making her. And that's something I really admire about the movie as well. It's hard to make a character who is the technical antagonist of your movie also be the true victim. While she's doing all these awful things, you know in the back of your head, she's only doing it because of a wish. She's not doing it out of her own free will. She has no agency to her. And that's really upsetting as you get along through the movie. It's very early on in the year, but I don't think there will be another performance this year that outdoes Indy Navarrete's as Nikki. If you ask me for one reason and one reason alone to see Obsession, I would 100% say that it's to see Indy's performance as Nikki. It's by far one of the best performances I've seen this whole decade, and she is a movie star in the making, and I can't wait to see what she does next. The rest of the cast does a really good job as well. No one feels like they're phoning it in. From Michael Johnston, who is our protagonist Bear, they do a good job at portraying him as this guy who doesn't know how to fully communicate his feelings to the person he loves, to then this morally messed up character who ends up being the movie's antagonist about a third of the way in because he finally understands that his wish has come true and he's not willing to do what's right to end the wish. They do a really good job at making you feel bad for him because of this messed up situation, and he's forced to stay in, but at the end of the day, he's the one who caused it, and he's only getting what he deserves. Bear is easily one of the most cowardly protagonists we've had in a while, and it works out to this movie's advantage. You then have Cooper Tomlinson, who plays Bear's best friend Ian. You can tell he cares a lot about him and Nikki and is really just freaked out about the sudden changes that's come from both of them. Some people might say he's a bad friend because of what we find out close to the end of the movie, but you're only really thinking that because we're following Bear. We followed him throughout this whole journey, and while Ian isn't perfect, he doesn't do anything wrong other than maybe one thing towards the end of the movie. But to his defense, there's absolutely no way he could have known what would actually happen, and it doesn't even make him a bad. It's just a really funny situation and had me laughing the most out of anything in this movie. You then get Megan Lawless as Sarah, the last person in the friend group, and I do think they could have used her a bit more in the film. That's like maybe one of the few things I think could have been improved upon. But when she is on screen, you can tell that she cares for Bear and thinks the whole situation with Nikki is very weird and out of place. Especially with what Nikki told her just before her and Bear got together. She doesn't want to see Bear get hurt at any potential games that Nikki could be playing for whatever reason. It's really nice to see a whole friend group all caring for one another and only wanting what's best for everyone and not wanting to see anyone get hurt. I was really surprised by how funny this movie was at times. It really helps balance the movie out because of how dark it can get. The movie doesn't use comedy as a way to undermine the horror at all, which is way easier to do than most people would think. The movie doesn't use comedy a lot, so when it does go for the comedic moments, they are a lot more funny than they probably would be if it was a horror comedy. The horror in this movie isn't very over the top. They go for the more psychological aspect than anything, and it works really well. There are so many scenes that just get under your skin in ways other movies can only dream of doing. Doesn't mean the movie doesn't have really gross out or brutal scenes, but when they do happen, they end up leaving more of an impact on the viewer because they're so sporadic and they just happen out of thin air. So much of the movie's scares work because of the execution of the camera work and the sound design to go along with it. Everyone who helped make these scares come to life did an excellent job, from the practical effects of the more brutal scenes to the way everything is lit up and what the camera is focusing on. This is easily one of the most on the edge of my seats I've been in years watching a horror movie, just because I never knew what was really going to come next with the scares. And it takes a lot for a horror movie nowadays to actually get that feeling out of me, so I applaud it so much for that. Now, this is usually where I would go into the mixed and the bad aspects of the film, but the more I thought about the movie, the more it played back in my head. I really couldn't come up with much to say that's really mixed or bad. The most I could say is that there's a scene, I don't remember how long into the movie it is, happens, but I don't personally care for these kinds of scenes in movies. But this movie probably has the best use of this kind of scene in any movie that I've seen, and I don't think you could have portrayed just the lifelessness and the loss of agency from Nikki in any other way. So kudos to them for making it work and not just having it to have it. So many movies have them and they just feel really out of place, and it's like, okay, you could have just implied what was happening. And the other thing is, and I guess I wish the movie was longer. I honestly could have sat through the movie 45 more minutes of this messed up story and characters. Those are really the only two things that I guess could be the closest things to mixed or bad, but they're not even close to that in the slightest. So with those small non-issues out of the way, let's move on to my final thoughts. Obsession had a lot to live up to, from everyone and their mother hyping it up to be some generational horror movie, and I personally have to be another person giving it all the praise that it deserves. The movie is scary, the movie is funny, the movie is heartbreaking, all the things that I tend to really care about in a horror movie. Indy Navarrete gives a performance of a lifetime as Nikki, and I truly hope that she is given at least the recognition she deserves come award season. You don't see breakout roles like this every day, and it is truly something special. Curry Barker has a fantastic career ahead of him, and I can't wait to see what he does next. His eye for horror is a breath of fresh air, and he deserves everything that comes after this. Obsession gets a 10 out of 10 from me, and if you're a fan of horror films, you should 100% go out and see this movie as soon as you can. Thank you all for watching, and have a great rest of your day.